that's the form that we can see ourselves in right now, even though we exist in multi facets of multiple timelines. But right now, this is where our consciousness is focused and aware. So we're having to resolve these things, and we are realigning with ourselves ultimately where we are. And then you shift out of this timeline, and you no longer operate in this timeline, because there's nothing else for you to do in this timeline based on the construct of this timeline.
So this is very difficult to know, of course, but I'm thinking of in regards to time as well. Like chronologically, do you think that people experience, or a soul or a spirit experience life like from the beginning of time, historically seen from this planet, and like going through forward in the future? Or do you think that our experiences are so varied that we might even jump back and forth in time, so to speak? Historically speaking, we might have lived one life in 1,000 years from now, and then another one 100 years back into the past again, or something like that? Or do you think it's very chronological the way we experience things?
I'd see exactly what you just said. We're flip-flopping in time, which is what the book talks about. I talk about the fact that we are it's just our consciousness that's really jumping around. It's just that we're so tied to the body, the physical body, from that perspective, that we only see the possibility of movement unless in this body. But it's not. It's the consciousness that's actually moving around. So we get flashes sometimes, and you sort of scratch your head, because all of a sudden, you were doing the dishes or you're doing something else, and all of a sudden you realize that at that time, you feel as if some time has passed, but you don't really have any recollection. But suddenly you feel like you just got back from someplace. I don't know. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, sure. Well, absolutely. In one regard, I even when you describe it, I get a feeling or a recollection of deja vu, kind of involved in that as well. That you're in some way recognizing the experience that you're having, and it's in some way it's resonating very powerfully with another experience that either I might have had, or actually someone else that has kind of contributed to the quantum field, or the Akashic record, or whatever we want to call it, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just fascinating to me, because we're jumping around in time. I mean, and I have had experiences. I mean, this is a few years back when I finally just said, okay, I get it now. I would be maybe sitting on the couch, and then suddenly I get this flash of myself as if I had been in the bedroom or someplace else. And I mean, but now it's coming in, vivid to me at the time. Now I could grab it, hold on to it a little bit longer, as if it was a memory. So I started scratching my head. I'm like, well, maybe did I do that at some point? I thought I was in the room. I mean, just that kind of bizarre stuff. And then after a while, it wasn't bizarre anymore. I started to realize that I'm just all over the place. And it's just my consciousness. And right now, where I am, whatever I'm conscious of at that moment, that's where I am. If I travel back to 1890, I'm just completely conscious that I'm in 1890. So I just think it is all fascinating. And I think that science is definitely going to really start, bringing this stuff up. They're always coming up with it like after the people that aren't technically scientists, have sort of figured that out.
Yeah,
but I think
the mystic, right, is the spiritual person is have a knowledge there, absolutely.
But we're all scientists, and I'm always saying that to everybody, is I recognize that we are all scientists. That's how we got here in the first place. We're doing amazing things with cosmic technology, and we've done such an amazing job that we just don't remember. It's just so fascinating.
Do you think that genetic memory has something to do with this as well? You talked before about this kind of that we've been capped, if you will, with a certain set of preferences or an experience properties that is attributed to the human being. But do you think that our DNA in some way has been programmed in this manner, or that our genetic memory is something that affects us, meaning that if our parents lived through something in a certain way, that's going to obviously reflect back on us. Do you think that might be the case also?
Yes, I think that all of those things are the genetics, ancestral imprints, as I call them, because all of these things are imprints. Now, trauma is always, a major one to get imprinted. Anything that's memorable and a shock to us, or impacts us in any way becomes an imprint. And I do believe that things become genetic. But I also know that as souls, I do believe that we determine the connections that we want to make in the bodies that we take on, and according to what we are going to need for that particular journey here. So even if that is the case, you choose parents that are going to have a particular encoding that you will need to carry out your plans. No matter how mad we get at our parents, that's what we do. But it's not that we can't change anything, and that leads to, of course, the whole idea of destiny and fate, which I talk about in the book. I talk about that in the book, from the standpoint that when we begin to move beyond much of these things, we start to move beyond what we call destiny and what we call fate. They no longer exist. They only exist as as guidelines. They work together with karma, with reincarnation. And if you really start to look at it, which I wrote about extensively, you will see that they would have to be tied together. You have destiny because what? Because you have a particular operation, a particular process that needs to occur in the timeline that you enter. So that's destiny when you are still there. Destiny then usually means if you're coming in with a particular agenda, karmic things to deal with, then that becomes destiny. And fate then is tied into that, because fate and destiny would have to work hand in hand. And of course, karma, in order to resolve, then all of that gets tied into it. And then the reincarnation wheel, the concept of reincarnation, would then be essential in order to allow a soul the opportunity to create this kind of resolve or this kind of transition. So they work hand in hand. But when we begin to shift away from the concept then again of the ego and feeling and the processing of emotions, based on, you did this to me and all of those things, based on the judgment process and the protection of the ego, which is where the survival program comes in. We must protect our egos. We must protect ourselves at all costs. When all of that, as you evolve from all of that, there is no need to have restrictions of that manner. There is no need for destiny to guide you. Your fate is your own. What you choose at that point is your own. The soul takes on a completely different meaning then, because the concept of the soul as we know it at this time is but a minuscule, a small part of what the soul really is, the expansiveness of it. The small part that we come in this life with is just the part that keeps the record going for your particular journey, all of your journey that has to do with this kind of experience. So as you step up, the soul actually emerges into it actually ascends into consciousness, because it's going back into its expansive state, which is then what as I said before about consciousness is really awareness. It's self-awareness. So you're biting off larger and larger pieces of self-awareness, which simply means that you're simply returning to greater aspects of yourself as source.
Yes.
I hope that all makes sense again.
Yes. Well, you're discovering yourself. That's what it's about, right? And also what you might be
Absolutely.
talking about here is that the more dedicated you are in your own quest for self-discovery, um, then you might kind of access or gain favor, so to speak. I don't know how to put it, but in order to live your life longer, in order to spend more time doing that. I don't know if that's true across the board, though. It seems that a lot of people actually who have been mystics, who have been very spiritually involved in themselves, or some kind of alchemical work or what have you. At least if we look back into history a few hundred years, many of those people actually seem to have suffered from a lot of physical ailments in a way. And I don't
Absolutely.
know why that is. I don't know even if you have an idea or theory why that might be.
Missing pieces to the puzzle, missing pieces to the puzzle. One of the biggest things that I see even with mystics, with yogis, with some of these beings that we've seen is a fracturization, because what happens is they end up biting off or focusing on one particular angle, and that in itself creates a limitation. So this it's such a very trippy game that it really requires an expansiveness and not the a lot of the limitation and fracturization that ends up being the way that some of these entities have ended up living or experiencing the matrix, because they also have that programming in their DNA, in them, and there's so many things to be understood, so many things to remember to really reactivate that part of ourselves. So without that kind of ascension, because let's really look at this, Heinrich, let's really look at this, that it would really make sense that the greatest achievement that you as a human being, meaning in you as a spirit in these physical bodies, could ever really make in terms of this game, in terms of the final outcome of this game, only in this particular concept of time now is what I'm saying, is to do what? Master matter.
That's interesting.
That would be the ultimate for you as a being to be able to do, is to master matter, which is why, yes, the yogis, there are many of them that were able to manifest things in their hands. They were able to do even some teleportation. They were able to do these things. All of those things would lead to the possibility of the body being able to transform itself or translate itself into the whatever the body or the vibration of that body or the frequency required for a physical body moving into a higher vibration or higher dimension. You cannot occupy a higher dimension or higher space outside of this one in your physical body. It doesn't vibrate high enough for that. And if it shifts into that kind of frequency, that kind of vibration, it's going to change from its dense state, because it operates now in a manner in conjunction with the concept of gravity. So we have to, when we start to really sit and look at this, you see that I'm not talking crazy stuff. I'm just talking scientifically. It would only make sense that that would be the case. Now, there are beings who have actually done this, but obviously you don't hear about them.
No.
You don't hear about these beings. The people that we know of, or the history that we find, that's dug up and we talk about, those aren't the people of power. When are we going to get that? It's who you don't know. It's what you don't know about. That's where the power is, just like the power lies in the invisible. For us, it's the invisible because of where we're vibrating, where our consciousness is. But it has